Sixers fans, Mavericks fans, what's good? This is your guy, Tone DeShields II from Chalk It Up. Where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. And I am joined by my good friend, my guy, holding it down for the Dallas Mavericks, Lindy Endzone. My guy, how are you feeling today? How are you feeling this evening? Talk to me. What's on your mind?
Awesome, man. It's an awesome day. Sixers are under a lot of turmoil right now with everything, with the Ben Simmons bashing. But we got some stuff to talk about here. We're going to try and make some sense of any kind of situation for that matter. We're going to do the best that we can for both franchises. And we're going to kill it today, dude. I already know it.
Yeah, for sure, man. You mentioned Ben Simmons, and then you think about the whole debacle with the Dallas Mavericks in terms of who the new head coach will be. And then on top of that, you have the conundrum of the unicorn, Kristaps Porzingis. Why has he not taken his game to the next level? Or why does it seem like he's in his own way, so to speak? So literally we're going to go into so many things with both of these franchises. And, let's not waste any time, man. Let's just get right into it. Are Joel Embiid and Luka Doncic in similar situations with their respective franchises? So, I'll lean that over to you first, and then we'll deliberate on that.
Well, I would have to say in the case of Joel Embiid, the time is ticking on him specifically. You're talking about a 7'1" center that, he resembles the size of like a Hakeem Olajuwon, but the strength that he possesses, there's a very good similarity there between the two players. And when you bring him in the same conversation as Hakeem the Dream, I mean, that's no joke. But yeah, man, I don't know. You got a guy that's 27 years old. He's entering his prime years. He already has some injury concerns. And the way he plays, the way he plays in that system for the Sixers, it doesn't seem, in my opinion, to be sustainable from a health standpoint for him. There was too many cases. There was too many cases where the Sixers need the Sixers need to do a better job with like spacing in a sense. Ben creates a little too much traffic when he comes down the court to initiate the offense, and breaking down Game 6 and Game 7, it was so it just looked like a broken record to me, especially in the fourth quarter. And I only broke down the fourth quarter because obviously that's the money quarter. That's when you want your guys to step up, and who wants the game more, like which team wants the game more than the other. And as I watched them, it's Ben just comes up the court. It's the same thing over and over. Like you're playing the same track on your CD player. He comes up top of the key. He stands there a couple seconds. He looks for Seth Curry off of a screen, gives him the ball, and then just goes and sits somewhere. And then that doesn't do much. That doesn't do much for spacing for Joel as he's working like the top of the key a little bit and working the top of the block, and it's like he can't really take anybody off of the dribble because there's too much traffic down in the paint where Ben is sitting. And that kind of system, that kind of offense isn't necessarily sustainable when you talk about the kind of superstar that Joel is. And you guys got to be careful with him with the kind of supporting cast that you got around him. He's more in a win now situation to me than Luka is. Luka's just getting started. He just finished his third year. He's only 22 years old. He's about to come up on his rookie max. The Mavericks are still building as a team when, I guess we can span this back to like 2016, 2017 for them when, Dirk was coming close to being on the outs due to retirement. And then they decided not to hang on to, Dennis Smith Jr. And then DeLon Wright goes out the door and Seth Curry goes out the door. And I'm still sick over that trade to this day because without Seth Curry, the Sixers would have been even less competitive against the Hawks than what they were. I don't like both situations for the teams right now. I'm a little more optimistic for my Mavs for specific reasons, but I'm a little more cautious for Joel's sake moving forward.
Yeah, I think I agree with pretty much everything you said. Both franchises are at different points, just entirely. Especially with their respective superstars. When you think about when you think about Joel Embiid, he's 27 years old. He is in his prime. He's in his prime. And when you take into consideration, he's 7 feet, over 260 pounds. It's a lot of weight bearing down on those knees. It's a lot of weight bearing down on his lower extremity. So uh how much more how many more years do you have him at this level of play? Can he get better from this point on? I think we've seen the best Joel Embiid that we've ever seen. He took his game from top to bottom. He took his conditioning to a whole nother level. And I think the Philadelphia 76ers need to recognize that and understand that he is your cornerstone. He is the reason you're going to win. And we have to maximize this productivity. And then when you think about the Mavs, Luka Doncic is only 22 years old, but doing the things that he's been doing, it's unheard of at his age, right? So they have a lot more time to get it right, but at the same time, he has the right to deny a contract. And if they don't show any semblance of a direction, I think the coaching decision, the head coach decision, is going to tell a lot. And a lot of these players now, these young guys understand that this is a business, and they are going to put themselves in the best positions to win a championship. Player mobility is paramount in the NBA, more than any other sports league. And it's so important for these franchises to understand that if you want to win, you have to pay attention to your superstars. You have to listen to your stars. You have to understand that there's a window. Now, Luka Doncic's style of play, he's going to play for a very long time in this league, a very long time, and he's going to be very productive. And he has multiple ways, multiple counters, different variances of affecting a game. And then when you think about the Sixers, Joel Embiid, same thing. So skilled for his size, so skilled for his position. Maybe one of the most skilled big men we've ever seen outside of Hakeem Olajuwon. Able to score on all three levels. One of the more dominant players in the NBA, damn near unguardable. But when I ask this question, are Embiid and Doncic in similar situations with their respective franchises? Let's take it a little deeper. Are Joel Embiid and Luka Doncic in similar situations with their respective counterparts, with their respective superstar? And what I mean by that is the Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons marriage, and the Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis marriage. Because let's be totally honest, Luka Doncic and Joel Embiid, respectively, did what they were supposed to do in the playoffs. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. They put up the numbers. They were available. They powered through injury. And you can not any point throughout the playoffs were you able to question their heart. Real quick, we got 5 people on the live stream. Make sure you guys hit that like button. It truly helps the stream get in and everywhere. Make sure you guys, if you're coming in and out, make sure you guys hit that like button before you leave. It truly helps the content get in and everywhere. Also, make sure you guys subscribe to my man Lindy Endzone. The links are available down below in the description. My guys is holding it down for the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Mavericks. So make sure you guys go subscribe to my man Lindy Endzone, and make sure you guys hit that like button for this live stream to make this live chat get hot and spicy. But as I was saying, you think about the relationship between Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and then Luka Doncic and then Kristaps Porzingis, respectively. Joel Embiid and Luka Doncic did their jobs in the playoffs. Ben Simmons and Kristaps Porzingis, obvious and blatant letdowns. What can you say about Kristaps Porzingis and that relationship with Luka Doncic? Can it work? Can Kristaps Porzingis take his game to the next level? So, do you think it will come to a point where Joel Embiid and Luka Doncic are going to give their franchises an ultimatum? Either you get me somebody that can actually help me, or I'm out of here. How do you approach that? What do you think those superstars are thinking when it comes to their respective superstars?
I don't know. I don't necessarily think Luka is in that kind of situation as of right now. I think, based on how, um, Mark Cuban treated Dirk Nowitzki over the years, even though the organization could have done more to sustain a winning culture after winning the title in 2011. I mean, even before then, the Mavs, I think they've had at least like one, 60 win season. They've had high 50s. So, throughout Dirk's time, they were pretty competitive. But the knock on him was that in the fandom of Dallas, a lot of people didn't like him in terms of that he couldn't deliver in the playoffs, but that wasn't always necessarily on him because the supporting cast was too inconsistent. You enter the 2011 season, they built a bunch of veterans around him, and Jason Terry was still there, Jason Kidd and Tyson Chandler and Sean Marion, and and guys like that kind of build up. It was a very good marriage, and Rick Carlisle was still he was still in his element of like the nature of being a coach in that time, and part of his departure to me is a means of like he didn't necessarily. I don't think he necessarily evolved enough to be able to bring that kind of upgrade to today's pace of the NBA. And yeah, that may sound contradicting to how the team performed last season, putting up one of the or the highest offensive rating in NBA history. Yeah, it's pretty contradictory. But when you break it down, and I think about Kristaps Porzingis in this sense, him and Luka have already shown proof that they can work together. It's just about keeping it consistent throughout the season. I mean, this is one of my bigger arguments for it. And sure, I've shared my moments on Twitter where I was completely irritated and I didn't want nothing to do with KP anymore.
Right. It's funny you said that because I was watching your live game play by play, and you and I both saw there were times where Kristaps Porzingis, it seemed as though he was second guessing. It seemed there was times where he was ineffective. It seemed at times he was afraid to go off those knees or just leave the ground. It just seemed as though he was passive in the offense. So I guess what I'm asking in terms of Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis, will there come a point? Well, do you think Kristaps can get out of his own head when it comes to his injury bug? Because I think he thinks about that when he plays.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't have doubts in that, honestly. KP has only been about 2 years removed from this injury, maybe. ACL tear, I think, it's either in his left or right knee. I don't exactly remember, and I know he's battled with it over the last couple of years. But that goes for the argument of Luka and KP actually working together. You can't develop a chemistry when your co-star is not on the court. You can't develop that in practice. You can't develop that off the court unless you're building a friendship, obviously. But you can't build that off the court. You can't build it in practice. You can't build it in scrimmages. You can't build it in the preseason. You got to know who you're working with when you're going throughout the regular season, minute by minute, game by game, with the collaboration of a coaching staff, how you guys build together in actual situations of basketball. And yeah, to an extent that can happen while you're practicing and whatnot, but the atmosphere is completely different. In the regular season, I mean, Porzingis has missed about 20 plus games in his first 2 years in Dallas. This is different in regards to the come up of Ben Simmons, where he's already been on your Sixers for about 5 years, I think.
Yeah, 4 years.
And
Yep.
it's a similar situation for Joel Embiid, even though he sat out his first 2 years. But in that period, there came a time where the two of them are coming together. It seemed like the two came together at just the right time to build a chemistry.
Right.
Ben and Joel have had a little more time in that regard, in my opinion, than Luka and Porzingis have, especially when you consider the inconsistencies of KP not being able to stay on the court, even though he played 43 games this year. But in those 43 games, he beat his career average in every statistical category. So there's improvement there, obviously. You were able to see it. Right. I forget his averages off the top of my head. I think it's somewhere about 21, 9, and 4, something like that. You'll take those numbers from a number 2. And then, I mean,
this season he averaged 20 points. He shot 85% from the free throw line.
Yep.
Shot 55% from the field.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'll take that back. He shot 48%, 47% from the field. He shot 37% from the 3-point line. But there's actually, you're right though. He has increased. Scoring was a little down, but that's because he wasn't the number one, obviously. But that's only a 2-point difference. But for the most part, he has improved since his Knick era. Since his time with the Knicks, and even even last season. But remember,
one of the biggest criticisms is that KP is a guy coming from New York where he had to get the ball, like he had to get his shots, and then Luka is the primary ball handler. He needs to get his shots. The offense is flowing through him, and Luka does not have a good off the ball game. But it's like, what if I told you there was a game in which both Porzingis and Luka got up almost 30 field goal attempts? You would think that, well, how the hell did that happen? But it actually did, and the two combined for like 82 of the team's 140 plus points. So it's games like that, and that ended up being KP's best game. They played the Pelicans earlier in the season, and he went 37 points, 8 boards, like 5 assists. He had 2 blocks, 3 blocks. He shot 9 of 13 from 3. So I mean, these guys don't just throw out those kinds of numbers. But over the course of the year, when he's missing time to a nagging knee injury, and when he's in and out of the lineup, and Carlisle did not load manage his minutes very well. He would miss a couple of games, then he would come back in and play starters minutes. He'd be over 30 minutes, then he'd miss a couple of more games, and he'd put him back on the court for starters minutes again. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Right. If you're trying to ease him back into it, why don't you give him in the low 20s and gradually build him back into the offense to where he's got that confidence to take that step off of his knee, or take somebody off of the dribble, and trust that you can have lift off of that bad leg. And that necessarily didn't happen, which in turn, because of a combination of coaching, which I do think coaching was a factor, and a lack of confidence in the health of your body, that's where he necessarily didn't show up in the playoffs, and he became frustrated over it because he felt that he wasn't involved enough in the offense, which Luka actually alluded to in his exit interview to the Dallas media. And it's like, he said he's a great player. We don't know what's going to happen in the offseason, and Luka knows that you play with different teammates every year, but he said he's a great player. He needs to be used more. I'm like, okay, well, it came straight from the horse's mouth. Luka said that Porzingis needs to be involved more in the offense, and I'm going to believe him for that. They have worked together, but you can't imagine to build something like that over a course of maybe less than 2 years, because Porzingis hasn't been on the court enough consistently with Luka. So that's where my optimism comes into play. And I'm on the impression of giving KP one more year in Dallas with Luka, have them figure this out under a new head coach. Dirk Nowitzki is back in the organization. He's in the front office as an advisor to the owner, Mark Cuban. So he's going to be involved in their coaching search, their general manager decision on who they want to bring up for that. So it seems to me that they're going all in on wanting to make Luka happy and build a contending team around him so they can get out of the first round, because you can't continue to allow Luka to go through these situations. Otherwise, he's eventually he's going to burn out as the primary ball handler that's scoring as much as he does. But
exactly.
Statistically, it's great for him. I mean, two out of his first 3 years, he's a first-team All-NBA player. I mean, that's great. But that kind of setup for a team is not it's not proper if you want to win a championship.
I could agree with what you're saying, because chemistry is important, and when you don't have that consistent time on the court with a player, it's kind of hard to build that trust. It's kind of hard for guys to feel a part of the offense, But that also begs the question: just how reliable can KP be? Health wise, and just shifting gears to the Sixers, just how reliable can Ben Simmons be? Not even health wise. How reliable can he be offensively? How reliable can he be mentally and emotionally? Because I got to be honest, watching Joel Embiid's press conference, his exit interview, there was a sense of disappointment in his voice. There was a sense of disappointment. He felt let down. He felt like he was on an island, and I do not blame him. He said in his interview, I believe the turning point in the game was when we had a wide open shot, and we passed the ball and got fouled, only made 1 or 2 of the free throws. The Hawks went down the court, shot a 3, made it a 4-point game.
Yep.
And I feel like the series, there were a lot of turning points in the series in general, but that was a significant turning point in that game, because that moment said so much about where Ben Simmons was mentally. The only person he had to beat was Trae Young, and Trae Young was not going up to try to block that shot. So all he had to do, so it's just one of those things, like how much. And again, both our franchises are in. I think we came to the conclusion that we're in slightly different situations with our supers. I believe Joel Embiid and Luka Doncic are in different situations with their franchises, but when it comes to their stars, I believe they are also in slightly different situations as well. Just because with KP, it's a matter of health, whereas though with Ben Simmons, it's a matter of how effective can he be offensively. And
I think it's a combination of both for Porzingis, though. I think it's going to require a proper coach to really settle him down and unlock him. And there's got to be an assurance there in saying, like, dude, you are the other main piece of this team, and we need you to work alongside Luke, and we're going to do the best we can to utilize you both at the same time, instead of making it seem like it's just one dimensional with Luka. Turn the atmosphere into a 2-dimensional where you package or you picture Luka and Porzingis as your main pieces. Don't let it be about Luka entirely, because you got to carry Porzingis along with you. So if you go into a mentality of like, well, it's not just Luka, Kristaps, it's you too. And I think that's one thing that's going to help his morale. And I'm not saying that Rick Carlisle didn't do that, but it seemed like there wasn't enough of that to where
the team was too Luka centric. It was too Luka like dependent. Like it seemed as though if Luka was, and then you have a what's the word I'm looking for? You have streaky Tim Hardaway Jr. That team all the way around. Now don't get me wrong, you guys forced the Clippers to a game 7. I thought you guys had the series. I'm gonna be honest. I thought the series was fully in control by you guys. But it just seemed like nobody was able to win at home. Nobody was able to win in their own arena. And that was the very strange thing about that series.
Well, Luka was gassed by every fourth quarter. Fourth quarter, Luka was gassed.
Which leads more to my point. I believe the offense just became too Luka-centric in the playoffs, especially. And when you think about Luka's playoff stats, the dude was just on a mission. 31 points in game 1, 39 points in game 2, 44 in game 3. And then by game 4, I feel like is when you really start to see I think it's when the injury started to come into play.
Yeah.
He only had 19 points, and then he bounces back from 19 points and then puts up 42 points in game 5, 29 in game 6, 46 in game 7. You can't tell me that man didn't come to play and fought through injury. You think about the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid, the game 1 in the first series, 30 points, then 22 points, then 36 points. Then he got hurt in game 4, only had 8 points. Then he didn't play in game 5. But then the Atlanta series, 39 points, 40 points. On a torn meniscus, 27 points, 17, which is a down game. 37 points, 22 points, and 31 points. Came to play.
That's where similarities are, though, if you think about it. There's similarities there. Every time for the Sixers and for Dallas, when that second unit comes in, where the coach has to, go maybe 9, 10 deep, even though it's.
I think that was the Sixers' problem. I think
in a game 7, no, but not in the game 7. You don't necessarily have that, but like when they get to the second unit and the superstar has to go to the bench, that second unit's not capable of either maintaining a lead or closing in on a deficit. So it's like your main guy, it's like he's only sitting for about 2 minutes on the bench, and the head coach has to look over. He's like, "Come on, man, we got to bring you back in here." I know I know you only sat in your seat for like 30 seconds, and you're gassed, but you got to come back in here.
Right, and then it sucks. And then it sucks for Joel Embiid because he's a big man, so he gets gassed quicker, and you can't necessarily. I'll be honest. As great as Joel Embiid is, I don't think your offense can be completely centered around him because he's going to get gassed. He's a bigger body, a bigger guy. You don't want to put too many miles on him as is. And by him having so much of a presence on the offense, at times it seemed like our offensive possessions were living and dying by Joel Embiid. And that was a problem for me because at that point the ball stops. He's a big man. It's going to take him time to get to his shot. He's in the post. He's going to set up his triple threat move, maybe a post fadeaway, maybe drive to the basket, get fouled. But my thing is, there's no flow to the offense once it gets to him. The ball stops unless you double team him, and Joel Embiid passes out the double team, which he's actually done the best this season that he's done in his entire career. That's actually been one of the knocks on him, his inability to pass out of the double team. This season was his best performance in doing so. But then when you think about that combination with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, by Ben Simmons being your second best player, he has to be supposedly, right? Supposedly, he has to be, because when you think about everything Ben Simmons brings to the table outside of scoring, he's elite. Passing is elite. Defense is elite. Ball skill is elite. Rebounding is elite. Basketball IQ is elite. Court vision is elite. Everything is elite. But when you get to the scoring side of the ball, he falls flat. He lacks aggressiveness. He's too passive. It seems as though he picks and chooses when he wants to get into the game. So that begs the question: should the Sixers trade Ben Simmons, or do they commit to his development? Because for me personally, I'll speak to you like this. for me personally, who's going to want to trade it for him right now? Right now, the trade market for Ben Simmons is shot at the moment. And then when you think about his contract, when you whoever you trade him to, they have to be able to match that salary. They have to be able to give up pieces in order so the salary can make sense on their side as well. And like I said, when you think after watching Ben Simmons' abysmal performance in the playoffs, his value, you're not going to get the return that a player of Ben Simmons' quality requires. You think about Ben Simmons right now, the trade market for him is not there. A lot of people are jumping out of the window, jumping off a cliff saying, trade him. And I'm of the mindset, yes, I understand that we've been dealing with this same issue for 4 years. I get all that. But can you honestly say trading Ben Simmons or whoever we bring in, we will become instantly better? Can you honestly say that? And then if you think about it like this, what GM is going to want to take the risk of trading for Ben Simmons? That might be career suicide, because if Ben Simmons doesn't learn to shoot for them, then what do they have? So my thing is right now, at least this off season, I wouldn't trade him unless there's an offer you can't refuse. So sometimes people put something on the table and you just can't refuse it, especially if it makes sense. Like, for example, I know this is a shot in the dark, and I know this will never happen. But if the Portland Trailblazers say, "Hey, listen, Dame is disgruntled. We'll give you Dame for Ben Simmons, Tyrese Maxey, and your first round, whatever," you do that deal. You do that deal. You do that deal.
A lot of people aren't going to like Tyrese Maxey leaving.
I love Tyrese Maxey. I wouldn't move Tyrese Maxey, but I'm saying if they say that, I wouldn't be surprised.
In the hypothetical, yes.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised if they pull the trigger. When you think about a combination of Damian Lillard and Joel Embiid, that is insane. That is insane. But me right now, as it stands right now, I'm not going to jump out the window on Ben Simmons. Not just yet. Not just yet. I want to see what Doc Rivers can do with this young man in a full offseason. I want to see what because they claim to have a legit plan for him this offseason. And a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, I'm a Ben Simmons apologist. I'm a Ben Simmons fanboy, yada yada yada." Let's be totally real about the logistics. What team is going to want to trade for him at this moment with his current skill set with that contract? I can't think of a team that would be willing to put their franchise. I can't think of a GM who's willing to put his career on the line for the hope of Ben Simmons changing his game. Now,
it's like that Carson Wentz mentality that we were talking about, towards the end of the season when we were in the off season talking about him, and everybody was asking the question, is he fixable? Well, it almost sounds like that question is being brought up for Ben Simmons right now. Like, is Ben Simmons fixable? That's the biggest thing, and I think that's what these GMs are going to end up asking themselves, because it's like, and I'm a Mavs fan, so people don't get mad at me for saying stuff like this, but there's got to be a coincidence when Ben has put up some pretty good statistical numbers, but in a lot of those games, who was not on the floor? Embiid was not on the floor when Simmons was putting up 30 and 40-point games. Is there a coincidence there? Like, do them two just not work together based on their skill sets and like the offensive spacing, where they need the ball, where they need the ball?
You're right, because Ben Simmons won't shoot it. If Ben Simmons was a willing shooter, I'm not asking him to be a sniper. I'm not asking him to be a three-point dynamo. No, I'm asking him to be willing to shoot the ball when he's open. And if Ben Simmons was willing to shoot the rock, that changes everything for the offense.
And that's the biggest issue. Like,
that's the thing.
He's only willing to attack the basket. He's not necessarily willing to pull up.
Barely willing to do that. Barely willing to do that now. So at this point, your question, I mean, your assertion is holds true because Ben Simmons, he's had 40-point games, not shooting the jump shot. He's capable of putting the points up without the jump shot. But my thing is,
triple doubles.
Right, but the question becomes, can this team take their game, take the entire roster to the next level? The answer is yes. But I'll put it to you like this: can this team win a championship as is? No, they cannot, because Ben Simmons mentally is shot right now. He won't shoot the rock, and it's a difference between not being able to shoot. It's a difference between not being able to shoot. He won't shoot the ball. He won't shoot the ball, and that changes your offense entirely. We're basically playing 5-on-4 basketball. Teams won't respect you. That makes it easier for teams to double team other guys. That makes it easier for teams to collapse in the paint and make it harder for Joel Embiid, and he's always going to be in traffic. If Ben Simmons becomes a more willing shooter, if he can get out of his own way mentally and emotionally, this team can be. There's no bounds when it comes to where this team can go, because you have a 6'10" point guard who can do everything, but he just won't shoot the ball. And it's weird because you saw him in the summer league; he was willing to shoot the rock. What changed? Something changed. And I feel like too long he's been coddled. Too long he's been allowed to be this way. And then
where did we hear that before?
And then when you give him, and then when he wins Rookie of the Year, based off of the way he's played, then you give him the contract based off the way he's played. It sort of validates in his mind. It validates, oh, I can win this way. When in reality, no, you can't, because as the playoffs go, teams are going to play you in these series. The biggest thing behind these series is the fact that you're playing teams multiple times in a row, and teams adjust. That's the whole caveat of the playoffs, in the NBA playoffs especially. Teams have an opportunity to adjust.
All they gotta do is focus on you.
And then it gets to a point where you're so afraid to score or even be aggressive because they're going to foul you. You're so afraid to get fouled. You're afraid to go to the free throw line. And we've never seen an athlete this much of a liability on offense in quite some time. He literally passes himself in Game 7. He passed himself out of the play, out of the offense. It got to a point. I've never seen Ben Simmons pass the ball before he got to half court. Never. And it's so sad to watch, because I believe it is fixable. I believe it is fixable when it comes to shooting. You can become a better shooter. Now, no one's saying you're going to go from being Shaq to Reggie Miller, but you can become a better shooter through repetition, through muscle memory, through consistency, through putting yourself through the ringer. Ben Simmons has certain skills that you can't teach. You can't teach that level of athleticism. You can't teach that level of court vision. You can't teach that. You can't teach that size with that combination of skill set. So, but you can teach someone to be a better shooter. You can actually teach that. Jason Kidd was not the shooter he became in Dallas. Rajon Rondo. He was not the shooter that he is now. Rajon Rondo has no fear now shooting the rock. No fear. He's a better free throw shooter. He's a better 3-point shooter all across the board. Ben Simmons has to be willing to do the work. He has to be willing to do the work. Just putting up shots in the offseason is not going to do it. You have to actually be intentional. And the rumor is he's been surrounded by too many people that are coddling his behavior. He's been surrounded by too many people that are perpetuating his bad behavior. And again, I'm not of the mindset right now to trade him, because this is not the offseason to do so. It's just not the free agency market sucks, and his trade value is not at a point where you'll be able to get fair compensation from him, especially with that contract. That's just my mindset. What do you think?
It's just crazy to think about, that the Sixers are in this position to begin with, after 5 years of an investment in this kind of player. with the issues that he has. And you bring up his Rookie of the Year. For context, I'm pretty sure that he beat out Donovan Mitchell for that Rookie of the Year. I think he beat Donovan Mitchell out.
And now, it looks people that Rookie of the Year is starting to look a little suspect, isn't it?
And it's even worse to think about, like, when you bring up the playoffs and you bring up teams adjusting to players like over the course of the series. And it's one thing when a defense, an opposing defense, limits you, because you can work around that with your own adjustments.
Right.
But self-limitation is even worse, because not only are you that kind of detriment to yourself, but you're hurting your own basketball team, because they're not going to know how to fix you outside of your personal limitations. Like, if the other team is taking you out of the game, your teammates and your coaches, everybody can work collaboratively to kind of get around that. But when you're limiting yourself in the fashion that Ben does, I mean, that just takes liability to a different definition. And then, I don't know. It's crazy how perplexing it is when he has put up the kind of statistical numbers that he's had in the past, with 30-point triple doubles, and just this season he dropped 42 on the Jazz against Rudy Gobert. I mean,
on all layups, all dunks and layups. I'm like, yo, this dude is insane. So that's the more annoying part about Ben Simmons. It's like, why? No one has time for your mood swings. No one has time for that. It's either it's always put it out there like, I want to win a championship. I want to win a championship. But do you really? Because if you want to be technical, if you want to be blunt, if we're going to be blunt about this, Ben Simmons has been the same player for the past 4 years.
Yeah,
he's been the same player. Now, because he came in the game so elite at passing, so elite at rebounding, so athletic. That's a part of a game. That's a part of his game that he's not going to need to work on. He's always going to be a willing pass. He's always going to have that vision. That's not going to change. All he ever had to do when he came into the NBA was work on his shooting, work on his free throws, and he has perpetually gotten worse at those things as the years have gone on. But let's be totally honest. And his scoring has went down. Let's think about it like this. So now, in all fairness to him, field goal percentage, his rookie season, well, his pseudo rookie season, because he didn't play the first year because he got hurt. So first rookie season, averaging 55% from the field. Sophomore season, 56% from the field. Third year, 58% from the field. Went up gradually. But then this past season went from 58% from the field to 55%. So he went down. And he was taking, but here's the thing though. His shot attempts went down every single year. And free throw percentage gradually was improving. He's been a 60%, he's been a 59%, 60% free throw shooter for his entire career. But when you shoot 35%, 34% in the playoffs, that's insane. And his scoring has went down as well. Scoring at a low. This is his lowest scoring output for his entire career. Rookie year, average almost 16 points. Second season, average almost 17 points. Third season, average 16 points. And then this past season, only averaged 14 points per game. That can't happen. He's not being aggressive on the offensive end. He's picking and choosing when he wants to have that dog in him, and he believes, finding my guys, putting my guys in the best position is all he needs to do. No, bro, you're 6'10". 240 pounds. You can score on anyone in the lane. Act like it. His offensive package when it comes to his late his rim package, his layup package has not grown. His counters has not grown. He's been essentially the same player offensively when it comes to scoring and for his entire career. I haven't seen anything scoring wise different from him in any capacity. And he hasn't shown the want to get better at shooting, at scoring. This offseason must be different. He is at a crossroads in his career. Right. He is at a crossroads.
You just got done talking about it. You brought up the Jazz game, and you were talking about that a lot of his points came from layups and dunks. Well, I can say in a slight sense that Luka has been relatively the same for the last 3 years, but he has continued to blend and mesh into the offense that he's playing in because he understands the players around him, where he understands what he has to do from his standpoint, what he needs to work on, how he impacts the offense in his specific ways. I don't know if Ben truly understands that aspect of his game. If you're going to base your points solely off of layups and dunks and what have you, and that's one of the biggest debates in the GOAT discussion between Jordan and LeBron when they bring up LeBron's field goal percentage, and then it's like, everybody's like, well, look where he gets most of his shots from, and Jordan has a mid-range game, and he works from the perimeter and this and that and this and that. Well, okay, the same principle can be applied to Ben Simmons. Okay, if you don't take the initiative, and if you don't have the drive to want to take that next step of the evolution of yourself as a basketball player and add a jump shot to your game and maybe spread the floor a little bit and hit that 3-point line, not just take people off the dribble and drive straight to the basket, add a little to your dribbling skills with, crossovers or working off of a screen for playmaking, and getting yourself set up to a mid-range game. If he doesn't do any of that, well, that's where the rest of the self-limitation comes in. He's only hurting himself as a player. And those things in the NBA are, it's kind of necessary to evolve to the times with the way that the game changes. So that's where it comes in. Like when people say in the comments, like, why did it take 5 years for people to realize the error of Ben Simmons? Why did it take so long? It's, part of it is because you're kind of stuck in a complacency based on his play style. When he drives to the basket and he gets these layups and these power dunks are all right, and that's fine and everything, because he's still able to rebound when he wants to. He's still able to play make when he wants to. But when that facet of his game starts to become imbalanced, that's when his flaws, rear their ugly head, and him not being able to shoot the ball. So he's got to realize that he's got to do more. He's got to do more offensively from like a scoring perspective than what he's providing right now. And it just makes it worse that, in my opinion, because this wasn't caught on to soon enough, the Sixers overpaid him. So now you guys have to deal with that long term. And it's just going to come down to his commitment and whoever wants to fix him, whether he stays in Philly or not. But I don't know I don't know if the patience is there anymore, especially with the fans of Philadelphia for seeing this, for so long. And it's almost like hearing about the Carson Wentz situation again. We were hearing about him being coddled and him being stuck in his own ways. Well, it sounds like Ben Simmons is, kind of in that similar, there's kind of similar things happening here to a degree, although it's a different sport. But
Yeah. Well,
if it's just solely a mental thing, then that's worse. If it's just based on his game of improvement,
it's a combination. It's a combination.
Blueprint, that's I think that's the biggest thing that you guys need to. I think that's the biggest thing that needs to be figured out with Ben Simmons. Is there a blueprint there for him to be able to, traditionally shoot a basketball and everything else offensively? Is there a blueprint there, or is there not a blueprint? And that's what's bothering him the most.
No, I feel you. You said it perfectly. The blueprint. The how-to. What's the answer? The bottom line is Simmons just has to want to be better.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't want it, it doesn't matter who you put him with. It doesn't matter how many times, how many shots he puts. It doesn't. If he doesn't want to be better, then it means nothing. You think about Ben Simmons from his entire career. He's been surrounded by. It's really strange. It's really strange when you think about how good he really can be. Because in my humble opinion, you think about how committed the Greek Freak was to his development. The Greek Freak has gotten better every single year.
Yep.
And I personally believe if Ben Simmons even wanted to shoot the ball, if he was aggressive all the time, I think he's a better player than the Greek Freak. He has more moves. He's a better passer. The Greek Freak is just obviously a bigger specimen. He probably would rebound more. But I just think Ben Simmons is more skilled than the Greek Freak. And here's the thing. Here's the thing about fans as well, because you mentioned, will the fans forgive him? That's an interesting question, because ultimately, let's be totally honest, fans are fickle. We love you one day, we hate you the next day. And fans, the moment, let's just be honest about it. The moment Ben Simmons even remotely starts to shoot that ball, if we see aggression, if we see want to, we'll live and die by you to the end of time. That's what separated, even if you don't want to see championship, effort, aggression, want to. That's the Philly fabric. That's the Philly mantra. That's the blue collar attitude that this city is about. If you show us that you want to be there, if you show us you ain't never scared, if you show us that you're willing to commit yourself to the city, to the team, to your development, to becoming a stronger athlete, mentally, emotionally, physically, this team will ride for you to the end of days. When you think about players like AI, you mentioned AI before we got started. AI, no matter what night of the week, he gave you his everything. He probably didn't go to practice, but he gave you the product every single night. When you think about guys like Brian Dawkins for the Philadelphia Eagles, he gave you the product every single night. You know what I'm saying? Every single afternoon, every Sunday, every Monday, every Thursday. If Thursday night football was even out back then. Like, my thing is, this city will ride for you to the end of the world if you show us that you're ready and willing to put it in work if you want it. The problem with Ben Simmons is he has been nonchalant his entire career. He has been too cool for school his entire career. And he's only 24 years old. Let's make it very clear. A lot can change. Listen, I'm 26. I'm not the same man I was at 24. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I'm not. So you can improve. It's very possible. I just feel like and at times I feel bad for the man, because when you're a professional athlete, where you're out there under those big lights with millions of people watching you, you're naked out there. You're completely naked. People see you running up the court. People see you. All the cameras are on you. People see the mental lapses. People see when you're not confident in what you're doing. People see it, and it's sad that it had to happen to him the way it did. But he's in year. But right now, Ben Simmons, he just finished year 4. He's going to be entering year 5, and I feel like this has to be a turning point in his career. It has to be. Like I said, fans are fickle. The moment he starts shooting that ball, the moment he starts showing any slight of aggression shooting that ball, fans will come back. Trust and believe. Fans right now, we're fresh off the Band-Aid being pulled off. The wound is exposed. It burns a little bit. The alcohol's burning. You know, the fans are upset right now because the way he went out. If he died by his own, if he lived and died by the sword, the fans would be okay. But he didn't. He curled up and wallowed, and he was cradled in the corner, just rocking back and forth. He didn't want to be out there. He didn't want the smoke. He didn't want the pressure. And it was clear in every decision that he made on that court. It was clear. Joel Embiid came out there and literally was balling on a torn meniscus. It's not a good look when your counterpart is balling on a torn meniscus and he's laying all out on the line. That injury could have been significantly worsened.
Yeah.
But he didn't care. He laid it out on the line, and it's not a good look. That's why the city gravitates more towards Joel Embiid than Ben Simmons, because Ben Simmons has this aura about him of it is what it is. I don't care. And I didn't like that he said that in his press conference. I am who I am. It is what it is. No, it can't just be settled on that. No, because listen, my guy, I'm gonna be clear. I bought your jersey, and I ain't going out like that. I ain't going out like that, Lindy. I'm just not. Philly will respect you more if you go out by your own means.
Yeah.
Like fall on your sword. It is what it is. Live and die by the sword. But do not be timid. Do not be tentative. Do not embarrass yourself out there. Do not embarrass this city like that. That is not the way we move as a city at all. Well, like I said, you think about Brian Dawkins, the mindset that he brought it every single afternoon. AI, he didn't cheat you. Ben Simmons is cheating this city right now, and he needs to get it together this offseason or next offseason. He will not be here because I don't believe this is the offseason to trade him. It's just the circumstances, the way the landscape of the league is set up right now. It just wouldn't make sense. His value was shot, so we need to find a way to fix him. Fix his confidence and turn his aggression up a notch. Because let's be real, I think the city came to a conclusion that he's not going to be a shooter. As long as he's aggressive, we'll live with him. Because I think that was the narrative this whole season. We all knew he wasn't going to shoot the ball, but if he can be aggressive from quarter 1 to quarter 4, if he can average at minimum 15 shots, 20 shots a game, we'll be cool with that because he's being aggressive. He's showing that he's willing to take the shots. He's showing that he's willing to get fouled, go to the line. He's showing that he's ready and willing. But the problem was in his playoffs, he didn't have any aggression at all. It seemed like we were just waiting for rain the entire time. We were praying for rain the entire time. And there was literally no aggression. And that was the problem. That was the real problem. Forget the shooting.
You said it.
There was no aggression, no passion, no 1-2. You tell me you want to win a championship. We don't believe you.
It felt like that there was a developed complacency throughout the years. Like a developed complacency to where, you know, and you brought up the fact that, you know, we kind of evolve as people. Like you said you weren't the same man, you know, at 24 that you are now at 26 because you're evolving. It almost sounds like a natural occurrence. Well, that's the craziest, most perplexing part of Ben Simmons as a basketball player. It's that, you know, it should be natural occurrence that you change, that you evolve your game as a basketball player the way that we simply do, maturing as we age. Because, you know,
here's the difference though, real quick, Lindy. Here's the difference before you continue. Here's the crazy difference though. I don't surround myself with people who perpetuate my bad behavior.
There you go.
That's the difference. In order for me to change from 24 to 26, or if I wasn't ever going to change from 24 to 26, I would have needed to remain to keep my circle the same. I would have needed to keep up the same habits in order to not change from 24 to 26. But I did change. That means that I maybe added some new habits to my life. Maybe I dropped some bad ones. Maybe I welcomed different people into my circle when I got rid of certain people. I was never ever coddled from 24 to 26. I was never fed. I was never given the Kool-Aid. I was never allowed to be of that mindset that my shit don't stink. And that's the difference. Ben Simmons, for the past 4 seasons, has been surrounded by the same people telling him the same things, which has allowed him to be this player now. I blame Brett Brown. I blame Elton Brand. I blame his brother. I blame his immediate circle. And it's just the fact that, he has not been held accountable. And my thing is, like I said, a lot of people are going to think that I'm an apologist. A lot of people are going to think I'm being soft on them. If you hear everything I'm saying, I'm being anything but soft on them.
Birdman, yeah. Birdman's like, Tone is too nice on Simmons. But but no, I mean, this is the thing, though. Like, you just talked about it again. It's like there's an enabling of the complacency. But the problem here is that those kinds of players with that kind of mentality, like that kind of mindset, if it's like an instability to want to change, those kinds of players should not be able to last in professional sports. Now it's a different, of course, I mean, when you bring up like Brandon Brooks with his anxiety, everything, that's a totally different discussion. That has nothing to do with what Ben Simmons is going through, because with Brooks, he's battling something like that in a totally different fashion. I don't like with Ben. I just don't like, with the rest of the Sixers fan base and me looking from afar, I don't get it. Like, why are you deliberately allowing these things to happen? Yeah, people can coddle you, people can enable you, but there's also like a personal intuition to it, to want to snap yourself out of that kind of mindset and like, wait a minute, what am I doing here? I'm playing in the NBA. I'm getting paid $170 million. I was the #1 pick in my draft class. Like, he needs to go through this. He needs to go through this himself in a fashion like, who am I? Who am I? Who am I as a basketball player? Like, that's the biggest thing to me, because those kinds of people, especially guys in pro sports that have that kind of, that have that amount of confusion, they don't last. They don't last in the league. And, that's the biggest problem, because he's already, and it makes it even worse that he's already displayed on, what seems to be rare occasion for Sixers fans. He's displayed the talent that he possesses, but when are you going to have consistency in that? And he needs to understand that, like, dude, just because there's people enabling this kind of behavior, that doesn't make it okay. At some point, you need to get out of your own way and understand what you have in front of you and just do what you're supposed to do, and not get stuck and not get stuck in a realm of that kind of complacency. Like, it's bad enough to most Sixers fans that he's lasted this long, like 5 years. That's a long time. That's a long time to be the same person, kind of player. That's it's essentially too long. Because these are, at the end of the day, the NBA is a business. They have to make business decisions based on the players and the decisions that they make. He's not only is he doing this to himself, but he's doing this to the organization. He's doing this to the fan base that has supported him for half a decade. I mean, there's a lot of levels to this that, you know, there needs to be more of an obvious understanding. And at the end of the day, he's only hurting himself, and people are falling victim to it because of how long this has carried on for. And it's a shame for the organization.
Yeah, man, you hit the nail right on the head, man. It's one of the more perplexing things in the NBA. The Ben Simmons saga might be one of the most mind-boggling storylines in the past 10 years when it comes to NBA lore. Like, it's the young man has shown he's shown his hand. He's shown that he's capable of putting up big numbers with his current skill set. So can you imagine if you wanted to take your game to the next level? I can honestly say Joel Embiid is not the same player he was last year. I can honestly say the Greek Freak is not the same player he was last year. I can honestly say Trae Young is not the same player he was last year. You know, I can honestly say Devin Booker is not the same player he was last year. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are clear instances where players have taken their games to an unbelievable level. There are players who have shown the want to improve this aspect of their game. You know, like I said, one of the biggest knocks on Joel Embiid was when he was double teamed, he seemed lost. As a big man, a dominant big man at that, you have a responsibility to know how to pass out of the double team. Joel Embiid was immaculate passing out of the double team. You know what I'm saying? Once again, like LeBron James, when he came into the league, he wasn't the most respected shooter. He didn't really have a mid-range game. He didn't have a reliable three-point shot. He didn't even have a post game. He was all athleticism and natural ability. But every year LeBron became a better, smarter player, just working on every aspect of his game. I remember that series where they lost to you guys in the finals. LeBron didn't have a post game. He didn't have a post game at all. He came back that following season with the post game. It's insane. His commitment to greatness, his commitment to wanting to be the best, and that makes you question Ben Simmons. Where is his commitment? You know what I'm saying?
Ended up putting up one of the greatest statistical seasons of his own career. I mean,
right.
The GOAT, in my opinion, the GOAT had to change facets of his game. I mean,
right.
After he finished his rookie years and through the late 80s, he didn't have the.
He became a different player after Dirk Collins. So you're right.
Once the explosiveness started to go away, he had to understand that he already knew that he had good footwork and he already knew he could take people off the dribble, but that evolution comes into play where then he went to working on people in the post and getting them on that pivot shake and going to that mid-range fadeaway that killed everybody. That's dude. At some point, like the greatest of players have had to do it already. It's like.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, man.
Like, do you want it? Do you want to take that next step, man?
That's the bottom line. Do you want it, or are you satisfied with just playing Call of Duty Warzone all damn day? Like, dude, and that's the problem with this. Like, and you know what? I can't even blame it on this era of player because, like I said, I've named too many examples of players who care about their development. Giannis Antetokounmpo wants to be the best player. He wants to be the best player. Ben Simmons, too long in his life has just been. It seems like things have just been handed to him. Things have just become easy to him. It's time for you to challenge yourself as a man. It's time for you to challenge yourself as an athlete, as a basketball player. It's time for you to challenge yourself mentally. It's time.
The pressure. I mean, the pressure even goes greater when you come out of college and you're coming out of the draft, and these scouts and all the analyzers, they're saying, like, Ben Simmons, for example, like, oh, this guy's a combination of LeBron and Magic Johnson with his skill set. I mean, Can you imagine, and imagine the people that have come out of college, that were compared to Michael Jordan, Vince Carter being one of them. Kobe Bryant was another one.
Brandon Roy.
The amount of pressure that was placed on these players to not only be great, but the pressure that the outside world had put out on them, and they thought that they could fall into his shadow and everything, and even know that it didn't exactly work, because every NBA player is different to one another, even though they share like some things, like some tangibles, or some intangibles for that matter. But it's just there's such a massive combination of factors that go into it, and I don't you have to have that mentality to want to do it,
and want to be better, to just want to be better. Me, I naturally have a mentality of I want to be better than I was yesterday. Like I have this obsession of wanting to be better. I think about it all the time. I'm not satisfied with who I am today. I never will be. I'm constantly trying to find different ways to be better in any way possible, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. I'm trying, because I'm not satisfied. But I come from humble beginnings. I don't have $170 million contract. So it's like when you get, and that's and I hate to count a man pockets. I'm never of the mindset or of the ilk to count a man pockets. Get your coin, my brother. You was able to change your family life, generational wealth. I'm all for that. But my man, at what point my thing is, you got your money already. You got the security. Now all you gotta do is focus on your game. All you gotta do is focus on your game. But the problem is, he spent too much time in LA. He spent too much time out there, getting lost in the sauce. La La Land. It's easy to get lost out there. He spent too much time out there where it's nice and sunny. You need to spend time where it's cold at in the winter. You need to spend some time where it's cold at. You need to spend some time grinding in the gym. You know what I'm saying? And I mean really grinding. We were bamboozled with all these little shooting workout tapes that we saw the past few seasons of him shooting the ball. We were bamboozled. And my thing is, when he was in college at LSU, he was shooting the ball. It probably wasn't always going in, but he was shooting it. He came into the summer league, shooting the ball, mid-range game, post fadeaway, pulling up off the dribble. He was doing it. So what changed? You know what happened? A coach like Brett Brown perpetuated the bad behavior. The family members perpetuated the bad behavior. Ben Simmons has to change. He has to be able to look in the mirror, and he has to want to take his game to the next level. But that begs the question, transitioning over to the Mavs, what do you think Porzingis can do to take his game to the next level? Can he take his game to the next level? Is this his ceiling? Just from your eyes, of what you've seen over the past few seasons with Porzingis in this current state of the offense, what do you think Porzingis can do to take his game to the next level? What's missing from his game?
I don't necessarily think KP has hit his ceiling. I think it's just more of a means with the evolution of the league right now, and Porzingis isn't necessarily a unicorn anymore. And yeah, I understand. I mean, for a guy to have a jump shot at 7'3", it's it doesn't sound normal. He can he dribbles the ball okay for his size. He's not the quickest, obviously, and the injury has hampered him a little bit. But, because he's in a situation right now where, I just brought up guys like Giannis and Kevin Durant who resemble KP in similar ways, but they're different players. It's like he is kind of being washed out here, because you're seeing other tall players do similar things to what Porzingis was able to do at his highest when he was a New York Knicks. So, and he's not going to necessarily settle down in a sense that the way that Embiid plays, because he doesn't have the girth to do it. But there's ways to work around it, like in a means of if he models his game similar to a
Anthony
mold.
Davis.
Who?
Anthony Davis, maybe.
You read my mind. Yeah.
Because now, do you think he's better suited at the 4 or the 5? Do you think he's more of a power forward or more of a center? Because remember, his time with the Knicks, he spent more time at the 5. With the Mavericks, he transitioned to the 4. So what do you think? What do you think is his sweet spot? Because he doesn't have the strength to play the 5 necessarily, but he has the height. And then when it comes to the 4, he doesn't have necessarily the speed to keep up with some of these fast wing players. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, where is he best suited? What do you think?
It is perplexing because he has been listed as a center for Dallas when he has been here, and that also goes to the roster construction too. I mean, when you have guys like Cauley Stein and Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber on the floor. I mean, those are them three are traditional 4s, although Powell can play center a little bit. Maxi is straight up a 4 because he's a shooter, like he's a sharpshooting 4. Not really, but that's one of his main assignments is shooting the 3. And then Cauley Stein was a bit of a disappointment. We were looking for more production out of him, and
I mean, he was a disappointment for his career. Cauley Stein was supposed to be way better than what he is.
Yeah, and I mean, with the disappointment there, I mean, he's swapped between the 4 and the 5, in situations where Dallas wanted to experiment with both Boban and Porzingis on the floor. They went big in the playoffs against the Clippers, and it worked temporarily. It wasn't a permanent fix to work around. The Clippers going small ball with Zubats getting less minutes, because anytime Zubats was on the floor and the Mavericks got the switch with him on Luka, Zubats.
Oh my! Barbecue chicken.
It was bad. I mean, he was just food for Luka. Anytime Luka had him around the 3-point line, he was just straight up food, just hitting, sniping his eyes out 3 after 3, and but it's very different. It's going to be difficult, but I still think we can work with Porzingis because I do like his mid-range game. He has a touch to him to where there's times where he likes to hit it off the glass at certain angles, where he based on where he is on the floor. He can hit the backboard pretty well to aid his jump shot, even though at 7'3", it's probably awkward for him to hit jumpers like that. Unless it's a 3-pointer, because he can snipe those from time to time. But if he were to play the 4, I think Dallas would need better spacing. I think they would actually need a traditional 5. Cauley Stein doesn't cut it. Boban doesn't cut it. Somebody that can really bully the paint like Embiid can. For him to play the 4. But
what if you guys went after? Because I don't think he's going to go back to this team. What if you guys went after Andre Drummond?
That might work. It might work, although I don't see Drummond and KP on the floor at the same time. I think it would ruin the spacing, and it would push Porzingis even further out to staying on the 3-point line, which that happened on occasion, like too many times in my opinion, because he would just be there'd be too many situations where he'd be non-existent in the offense, where you got Luka working top of the key, trying to get help off of screens, because a little nugget here in the regular season, Luka was double teamed the most out of any player in the NBA.
I can believe it.
On 44% of his possessions, Luka was double teamed. For you to attract that kind of attention to need like that many screens to open up looks, and like there wasn't enough action in the offense involved with Porzingis. Like there was too many times where he would isolate himself on the baseline, and I don't know if this was system based or whatnot, but there had to be a little bit more substance, in my opinion. Like get him working on some get him working on some give and goes, or have him cut from the baseline, or work off of a screen, get some pick and rolls in there.
I was just about to say that, like some pick and pops and pick and fades, it's.
They did it, but it was too sporadic, where it looked unnatural. I think that's where a guy like KP needs to be utilized, because it's not like he has the size where he clogs the lane. Like if you compare Embiid's girth to Porzingis is a lot more lengthy and slim, where Embiid, his presence is there, to where if you put Porzingis in the pick and roll a little bit more, I think he can slither his way into the paint a little better, get him in some alley-oop opportunities, to like poster somebody, because I don't think you're stretching your arms so far out. There's no way somebody's going to block an oop when you're 7'3".
7'3", right. See, Porzingis has these measurables that are just bar none, and I feel like you said, Porzingis just wasn't utilized enough in the offensive game plan. It just seemed like he was just kind of just off to the side, and
not enough movement. No.
Yeah, just not enough movement. Not enough pick and roll situations. Not enough pick and pop situations. I do believe he should definitely spend time watching Kevin Durant tape this summer, because the way Kevin Durant is able to utilize, because Kevin Durant is very lengthy like that. The way Kevin Durant is able to utilize his size and still do what he does with the ball, insane. So KP should probably watch some KD tape for sure this summer. But
the biggest thing for me is that I think him and Luka really need to hone in together by themselves, and like, dude, like, what do you truly like to do? Like, what do you
need from me, and what I need from you,
and vice versa. I think that is the biggest thing that needs to happen. But it's going to take a coach, to want to elevate that out of the two of them. Like I said earlier, with some of Luka's criticisms, with him having a lack of an ability to play off the ball, that's not entirely true. Going back to some of KP's best games, I mean, he's already had a 31-17 game, 17 boards. That's exactly what you want. The 37-8 game, he's had a 24-15 game. There's a capability there. So I mean, yeah, Luka and KP really need to work together in that regard, and make it a 2-player offensive system instead of a 1-player offensive system. Make Porzingis and Luka the system, and don't let Luka be the entire emphasis. If you involve KP in that way, I think that's where his game will start to elevate.
I agree. And on that note, man, I think it's about time we get out of here. Like, you said a lot. You said a lot of jewels on both sides. For the Sixers, the Dallas Mavericks. It's both our teams, regardless of how it goes down, has some soul searching to do in different ways.
I do got 2 things for y'all, Tone, and I thought about this when we were talking backstage beforehand, and I didn't want to bring this question to light because I knew it would be an awesome one for the stream for Sixers fans. Would you guys be interested? And now, again, there's a lot of Sixers fans not wanting Doc Rivers here after 1 season. So, entering the hypothetical, because of the baggage that Doc Rivers has in blowing so many, 15-plus point leads, 20-point leads, whatever, in the playoffs especially, because, Y'all seen it with him with the Clippers blowing the 3-1 lead to Denver Nuggets last year and all the leads that he had. Entering the hypothetical, if Doc Rivers is not the coach for the 76ers, would you guys consider Rick Carlisle?
That's interesting because you mentioned something. That's actually very interesting because you mentioned something a little while ago about Rick Carlisle's coaching style. Is it conducive to this current NBA? So it's very interesting. It's very interesting.
However,
now when you think about what he did with Dirk Nowitzki,
yes,
how he was able to coach him,
yeah,
and get him in the best situations possible, and you think about that Joel Embiid, because Joel Embiid has as far as from a shooting perspective, similar skill set.
He would thrive from that. You don't get a big man like that to be able to have the skill that he does, especially shooting free throws, because both Dirk and Embiid are fantastic free throw shooters.
Fantastic for their size, fantastic.
And for the amount of times that you guys were able to get Embiid to the free throw line this year, I mean, it's that's unfathomable. Like, even a guy in Nikola Jokic couldn't even be able to draw as many fouls as Embiid did, and it's almost unnatural. It's almost unnatural for a center like Embiid, with already having that kind of free throw percentage, and to maximize it in that fashion. I mean, you can imagine a guy like Rick Carlisle with working with Nowitzki all those years, how much Embiid can thrive with a coach like that. So if Sixers fans are under the impression on how bad they think Doc Rivers did this year in the playoffs, minus the regular season, because I think you guys are satisfied enough.
Right.
So would Rick Carlisle be that kind of an option for the Sixers if y'all don't like Doc?
Now, if the Sixers decided to move on from Doc, I would definitely entertain Rick Carlisle. I would entertain it for sure. But here's the thing, though. When you think about when Doc came in, I think Doc utilized Embiid perfectly. He said, get your big behind down in the paint and eat. And that's exactly what Joel Embiid did. He got in shape for the first time in his career. Nutrition was amazing. He just had a weird injury through the season that took him out like 20 games or 15 games, but he was effective. He played the game he was meant to play. So I think Doc Rivers pretty much has an idea of what to do with Joel Embiid. I think it's just more so his decision making in crunch time, and I think it's a matter of, can he be more decisive in his rotations? Because there was no consistency in our rotations throughout this playoffs. It just seemed like he was going 10 deep too often. So I just feel like Doc Rivers' weakness is just tightening up. He needs to tighten up his rotations, and he needs to coach his bench up a little better. On top of that, he needs to stop blowing leads. Period. But at the same time, the players, they play, not him. So ultimately, I don't want to say he doesn't prepare his players, and I don't want to say he's incapable of making adjustments, because he showed you that he was capable of making adjustments after game 1 and going into game 2 from the Atlanta series. The way we guarded Trae Young, so on and so forth. So I mean, if Doc Rivers doesn't end up being a guy, I think he's on a 5-year deal. Now he has 4 years left. If he ends up not being a guy, I would entertain a Rick Carlisle. You know what I'm saying? But right now, I feel like we still need to give Doc a chance. This is new territory for him as far as his roster. He hasn't had a big this talented since maybe Kevin Garnett. I know Blake Griffin was talented, but Blake Griffin was more athleticism than anything. Blake Griffin became more skilled as his career went on. But he hasn't had a player this talented ever. So I believe,
in all fairness, the defense also blew those leads. Aside, next to Doc Rivers, the defense also blew those leads.
He's always prepared his team defensively.
Yeah, the fourth quarter, the fourth quarter in Game 7, I broke that down. The defense was pretty bad. As soon as Seth Curry entered the game, it was good night, Irene.
Right, and it was sad because he was giving us everything offensively. So it's like, damn, what do I do? The problem was we just had too many players not doing their jobs like on a consistent basis. Like I'll be honest with you, like I can't blame Doc Rivers for a certain extent because Ben Simmons he couldn't make his free throws. It was and then you lost Danny Green to injury, which put him actually, which limited his rotations when it came to perimeter defense. He was forced to see Danny Green gave you that 3-and-D guy, whereas though Seth Curry he was just a 3 guy, and by having Danny Green on the roster, it allowed you to leave certain people on the court for a certain amount of time, and he was able to give you the 3-point shot and the deep and the same high level defense. So I just felt like he was handcuffed. He was handcuffed with the roster, and it was just Ben. I bet any amount of money if Ben Simmons makes 75% of his free throws in this series, we win the series.
Yeah, and on the flip side, so I'm not creating any excuses for Doc Rivers. I'm not going to do that, but on the flip side, with talking about defense and everything, it's still the head coach's responsibility to understand the strengths and weaknesses of his players and knowing when to put them into the game, in certain situations based on the circumstance of what's happening. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, there is a merit there, but it just makes it worse, when in Game 6, Kevin Huerter puts up an absolute goose egg, scored nothing, whatsoever. Game 7, he drops 27, and then up into the 6-minute mark of the fourth quarter in Game 7, Trae Young was 2 of 19 from the field, and then
that's my thing, man. Y'all like Kevin Huerter beat y'all. Y'all like Napoleon Dynamite beat y'all. Like it was insane, man. It was
a bad defense. It was a bad defensive combination, man. I don't know who the defensive coordinator is, but I mean, like for me when I dropped the end of that Sixers breakdown, outside of the star players, there's fundamentals that really need to come into play here with the way that some of these guys play defense. Seth Curry has issues. Korkmaz has issues. Matisse has issues. And, some of these guys are young. I think Matisse is a young player. I think Shake Milton is a young player. Tyrese Maxey obviously is a young player. So, stuff like that. But I mean, yeah, there's fundamentals that have to come into play here, because it's like, those kinds of defensive breakdowns and, confusion on who your assignment is. Those are moments that can make or break a basketball game, whether you win or lose. So sometimes the smallest things make a big difference, and I hope that something like that is not overlooked when it comes to next season for the Sixers.
Big time, man. And both our teams definitely have some work to do this off season.
Yep.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. Lindy, I appreciate you for coming on to the live stream.
Yes, sir.
Being a hell of a contributor to the conversation, really challenging my thought, really just being a dope individual throughout this whole process, man. And your basketball acumen, your basketball mind is top notch, my guy. Truly, truly, man. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to my man Lindy Endzone's content. And also make sure you guys hit the like button on this live stream as well. Make sure you guys really, really, really follow my man Lindy Endzone. He really holds it down for the Philadelphia Eagles, puts out Eagles content, covers the Dallas Mavericks. He's also an Atlanta Braves fan. So my man is my man is holding it down on all fronts. All fronts.
Although I don't cover them, yeah. I don't got enough knowledge for baseball. I'm more of a casual fan.
No, I feel you, man. But listen, you do your thing, my guy. I'm so grateful for you, my guy. As I always say to you guys, I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II. You guys have been locked in on your dose of Chalk It Up. Where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. One love, stay humble, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay hungry. And let's get out of here, man.
Take care, everybody.